I had gastro.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I was always like, how, like, if you're a wedding photographer, what do you do? Like, because if you get gastro, you can't call in sick. Well, especially back then, because we didn't know anyone in the industry, we were so new that we didn't have anyone to call on if, you know, that was to happen. So I'm sitting there like shooting and they're like, blah, vomiting.
No.
Day, and like, you know, I made a lot of errors that day. Like, we charged very little. I think we did like photo and video for $800. Like, it was ridiculous, you know. I made a lot of errors, like with lighting and just like shooting on JPEG. I was shooting on JPEG to save my memory card. Like, stupid errors that you do when you're sort of new. And after that day, I was like, oh, I don't want to do wedding photography anymore. It's too stressful, like way too stressful. And sort of just kicked back for a couple months, and like my sister was like, come on, let's try it again. And then we did the next one, and it got like, that was amazing. And then from there it was just like, oh my God, I actually belong in wedding photography, because it's one of those like genres of photography where it's, you just don't know what you're going to get on the day. And like, you've got different lighting, like subjects, you've got lots of excitement, parties, you know, you can have a sneaky wine at the reception. So like, I do really love wedding photography now, but it's sort of just, that was probably a good mistake to make, you know, at the start, because I learnt so much from that wedding. But yeah, she still sort of stalks me to this day. Why aren't my wedding photography photos like your ones now? And I'm like, I'm 10 years in now.
So welcome to another episode of Yarning with Jannah. Today we have Ashley K. Now I'm going to give it a shot. Can I do the last name?
Go for it, yeah.
Kara Katsanek.
Very, very close. It's Kara Katsanis.
Oh, Kara Katsanis.
Yeah.
Wow. I feel uber lame now.
You do pretty well, considering some people like say, like, I'm just going to give up and say Ashley Carrots and Bananas. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Oh,
wow. I get, when I ring people, I'm like, hey, it's Jannah. And they, hey, Fiona. And I'm like, no.
Oh,
no, I don't know where you got Fiona from.
That's so funny. Yeah, because like, people would pronounce you like Jannah, wouldn't they?
Jannah,
yeah.
or Jenna.
Jenna, yeah.
Jenna, yeah. I get it all. I nod to everything and just take it.
Like,
I don't even bother correcting people anymore.
Sometimes it's not even worth it. And that's like when I go and like sign up for, so when you go to the shops these days and they like, do you want to sign up? And I'm like, not really, but like, I just add. So I never give my full, I just go Harris, K-A, because I can't be bothered sitting there for ages spelling it. So I'm just like, whatever.
Over the coffee, they're like, how do you spell Jannah? I'm like, however you want to.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
Just go for your life. Yep. YARNA, if that's what suits you, that's what we'll go with.
That's funny. Yeah. Why not? Why not?
Oh, wonderful. All right. So I'll get started. So wedding photographer based in Melbourne. You've been shooting since 2010, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's 10 years.
Almost. Yeah. 10 years.
10 years.
Take off. Can we take a year now? Because we haven't shot like much. So
like, 9 years.
Yeah, 9 years. We count this year. This is a write-off.
Were you doing photography before that? I mean, I look at your work and I'm like, wow, like that's an incredible standard to have after 10 years. Were you shooting before you were doing it professionally as a wedding photographer?
No. So I started first by shooting newborns and family work. So I think I was doing that for about a year before I sort of decided, oh, why don't I just try a wedding? Like, you know, that's what everyone does. Like, you know, when you first start photography and you sort of just take on anything, you're just like, all right, I'll do that boudoir. I can never say it, boudoir shoot. I'll do that couple shoot. And I just sort of took on everything that came my way. And I was like, it was good because it kind of gave me that, like, it kind of let me like try everything and then work out what I really, really loved. But yeah, I started doing newborn and family. Then I did a wedding, probably maybe 9 months into it. Did my first wedding and was sort of like, I did it for free. So I put out this post like ages ago, like when I first started going, oh, anyone like not have a wedding photographer and looking for one, I'm happy to do it just like for practice. Don't have high expectations, but like, if you're not having a wedding photographer. And then somebody reached out to me and said, we were just going to get our uncle to take the photos because we can't afford photography. So this works out really good because my uncle can like now just be a guest. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like I've got free range, don't have to step on anyone's toes. And I did the wedding and I thought, this is really cool. It's so cool to be involved in, like, you know, going to the bridal preps and then going to the groom preps and just behind the scenes of a wedding, because you're always going as a guest and you don't get to see all that kind of behind the scenes stuff. And I really liked it. And then so I started this sort of idea with my sister Nikki, who's a videographer, and we thought we'd do weddings together. And yeah, so we did our first paid wedding and it was disastrous. Like it was just like, we hated it. It's like, oh my God, we're not cut out for this. Like this is so bad. But
what happened?
It was just like one of those weddings where like it was really stressful, very low budget. Not that that's a problem, but like really high expectations, like, but on a low budget and just stressful. A lot of people there, a lot of chaos. She was an older bride, so she was in her 40s, like late 40s. She was really princessy. Look, we rocked up on the day and she had hired other photographers as well. So she had us and then another photographer. So basically she said, oh, these photographers are from Gumtree and like, they're shooting for free, but they won't get in your way. And it just sort of put us off completely. Like, you know, when you're like really excited to get out there and you're like, it's your first paid job and you're like, we're going to smash it. Like everything was just put off from the moment those photographers walked in. Oh, and I had gastro.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I was always like, how, like, if you're a wedding photographer, what do you do? Like, because if you get gastro, you can't call in sick. Well, especially back then, because we didn't know anyone in the industry, we were so new that we didn't have anyone to call on if, you know, that was to happen. So I'm sitting there like shooting and they're like vomiting
No.
day, and like, you know, I made a lot of errors that day. Like we charged very little. I think we did like photo and video for $800. Like it was ridiculous, you know. I made a lot of errors like with lighting and just like shooting on JPEG. I was shooting on JPEG to save my memory card. Like stupid errors that you do when you're sort of new. And after that day, I was like, oh, I don't want to do wedding photography anymore. It's too stressful, like way too stressful. And sort of just kicked back for a couple months, and like my sister was like, come on, let's try it again. And then we did the next one and it got like, that was amazing. And then from there it was just like, oh my God, I actually belong in wedding photography, because it's one of those like genres of photography where it's, you just don't know what you're going to get on the day. And like you've got different lighting, like subjects, you've got lots of excitement, parties, you know, you can have a sneaky wine at the reception. So like I do really love wedding photography now, but it's sort of just, that was probably a good mistake to make, you know, at the start, because I learnt so much from that wedding. But yeah, she still sort of stalks me to this day. Why aren't my wedding photography photos like your ones now? And I'm like, I'm 10 years in now.
That's the learning tip. Isn't that amazing? I remember this as well, and getting the feedback and then having to go to bed for like a couple of days, just lick my wounds, because they were shit. They were shit photos, yeah. Before every now and then I'd be like, oh, that was a lucky one. That was a lucky one, until you really start. And that's all part of the process, isn't it? Yeah,
100%. And like, that's why, like, even though sometimes I see the wedding photographers out there charging like $800 or $600, and it doesn't make me mad. Like a lot of photographers are like, oh my God, they're ripping off, they're killing the industry. And I'm like, but like those clients have to know what they're getting. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make me mad, because that person, me 10 years ago, is not my competition now. Oh, sorry, you there? Yeah, sorry. My charger just literally, I think I'm going to have to get a charger. I'm so sorry.
You're right, that's okay.
As I was saying, the girl who I was 10 years ago is just not my competition now. So like, whatever, like those photographers have to do what they have to do to sort of get their experience up. Like, that's just what they have to do. So yeah,
go through that valley of learning as well. It's amazing how many people don't come out the other side of that.
I know, yeah, you're right. You either sort of really push hard and get there, or you sort of give up, because it is hard. Like, it's not an easy genre of photography to do. I'm so puffed out.
You're right.
Get the charger.
I always say it's like 80% crowd control.
Yeah.
And being able to read what's going on and being able to kind of preempt what's going to happen next.
I know.
20% skill.
Yeah. And like, even after a wedding, like if you're a wedding photographer, you will totally understand this. But like after a wedding, like the next day, you actually feel like your brain hurts because you've been thinking all day the day before. You've used your brain to its like full potential, thinking about what can I do next? Like, where's the good lighting? Like, what's that person doing? And especially even like at a reception when people are dancing, you're standing there like a ninja, like waiting for that moment to happen. You're like, bang, bang, bang. So like after a wedding, I always feel like I'm just like wrecked.
Hit by a bus.
Yeah. Just like, oh, my brain just needs rest today.
How many, on average, and I was just going to share this now. So you've combined your love of travel and photography together. So you've traveled England, Italy, France, Fiji, Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam. Yeah. Before I ask you where your most favorite place to shoot has been, like on average, how many weddings would you do per year?
Like here in Australia?
Well, just in general. Yeah.
In general? So like depends. Like last 2 years ago, I think I did like something crazy, like 60 weddings. And I was like so incredibly exhausted from that. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to calm myself back. So I think last year I did like 45. This year, 10.
Oh, and were the 10 this year, they were based in Australia, were they?
Yeah, so all of my weddings this year have been based in Australia. So I think I got through like January, February, March. I did get to go to Vegas, but that was for the WPPI conference. So I did get to get away. I did have a Fiji wedding that I was supposed to do this year, which is now being postponed till next year. Fingers crossed we can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I try and do like maybe between 2 and 4 destination weddings a year, and that's mainly just so I can like just have something different to photograph, just go somewhere different, have a bit of an experience, enjoy like different culture, and yeah. So next year I have one in Greece, one in Bali and Fiji, but I don't know if we're going to be able to go. I'm just like literally got my fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed it's all going to come good. Where so far has been like if there was like this one-time favorite destination place that you photographed, where was it?
I loved Greece. Like we did Santorini 2 or 3 years ago. I loved that. Like it's a beautiful, picturesque place. But I also, probably my second favorite place was Vietnam, mainly because like the crew that we traveled with was like, so I went with Michael Della Rosa from Allure Films and his wife, and then the bride was a photographer herself. So like we really had so much creative control there. Like they were like, yep, we'll do a pre-shoot, we'll do a post-shoot, we'll do on the day shoot, we'll go wherever you want. So like we were able to get that like flexibility to sort of go, all right, see this rice field? We want you in there. Like I know it's wet and muddy, but you're going in there. And she was like, I'm all for it.
Right. So it wasn't like a cultural wedding, but it was more everyone going to a destination to.
Yeah. So she was Australian. Her partner was from England. And so they sort of all just met there for the wedding. And there was like, I think there was like 40 or so guests there. But yeah, it wasn't like they were from Vietnam. They were both like English people. And so they sort of had all their guests there, but they had some sort of small traditions like Vietnamese, I can get my words out, traditions that they had, but like it was just the culture around there. Like we were like walking through like the streets and doing photos in the streets, and sort of that's the kind of photography I love when I'm doing overseas weddings. Like I hate when I'm like, okay, I'm going to do an overseas wedding and then it's just like at a beach. Like you can do that anywhere. Like I want to go in the streets. I want to see that culture of that, country that I'm in. So that was really like, that was a beautiful wedding, but mainly because she was a photographer herself. So she was like, yep, I'm all for anything. And like, yeah, that was great.
You had the free range.
Where are you located?
I'm in Cairns.
Oh, you're lucky.
Oh, nothing, yeah.
So lucky. And it's probably really nice weather over there now too.
It's been really cold in the morning. It's like 15, 16.
Oh, that's not...
and it's been, it's like summer's on its way back again now. I do have the fan on and that's so
that's so good.
I'm sorry to
no, that's okay. My half my family lives in Magnetic Island, so I keep telling them, like, can I sneak through the border and come and live with you guys? Like,
you'll be very famous if you do.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, me and my sister were like, we should just try it. I'm like, do you know what? We will be hated online if we did that.
You would have to change your identity.
I know. Yeah.
Business probably wouldn't go that well.
No, that's right. I don't think so. But yeah, so I think we'll just stick it out here. I wish I had have known this was going to happen. I would have sort of, because there was like, I think 4 or 5 days to get out of Victoria before they closed that border for the second lockdown. I wish I had have known. And because my grandma lives in Magnetic Island, and I'm like, she's like, you could have come and stayed here with all the kids. And like, I'm like, that would have been so much like better just to get out of Victoria and just stay there. But whatever, we'll stick it out here. We'll ride it out. Hopefully it's not forever.
You had a nice package come in the mail.
I got a few good things in the mail last week. So a client sent me a hamper, and it was basically like all these beautiful fruits and nuts and stuff like that. But yeah, so the other thing was a trophy. So that was for WPPI for the Grand Award. So it was for the first and second half competition. So they both basically choose the best wedding photograph from those like 2 competitions, and then they win the Grand Award. So that was like completely surprised award for me, because I was like, wow, like I wasn't expecting it. So
did you know about that award when you were over there, or?
I was at the conference or the award ceremony, and I was just watching, like, they're in support of everyone else, and then they're like, oh, the Grand Award, Ashley Carrick's, and I was like, oh my God, like, how fancy being here, and like also having that called out was like really cool.
And was that the first time that you had entered those awards?
No, so I entered WPPI, that competition, the print competition, about 3 years ago, and then I stopped. But I was entering the online competition. So there's the print and the online, and the online is really cool because it's like you just have to send your images in. You don't have to print. It's really inexpensive, and it also sort of gives you, I think you can pay a little bit extra to get that feedback as well. So if you're like a photographer that's wanting a little bit of feedback on your images, you can send it in and pay like, I think it's $5 extra, and they'll record the feedback. And it's good for like those, because you can enter those images into the print competition. So it gives you a bit of sort of practice run. And then there's the print competition, which is the print competitions are what I love the most, because they're the ones where you're there you're watching these prints come out, and you see the actual prints, and you learn so much by looking at these prints. So yeah, it's good. I love it.
Yeah. So how important has it been to have that sort of feedback over the years? Have you always been kind of critiqued from the beginning, or has it been something that you've done in the last few years?
No. So I think about 2 years into photography, I joined the AIPP, and I started entering the state and national awards. That has been like, entering those awards has been like so good for my work. Like, I just push myself every wedding. I'm like, I want to shoot an award shot. Like, so every wedding I'm at, I'm always looking for that different shot, that creative shot, because I feel like, these days we see all this like beautiful, like candid, fresh work online, and it can all start to look the same. So, and I do it too. I see this work online on Instagram, like, it's so pretty, like the clients would really love it, but what your clients probably love more is something really unique and different. So like, every time I shoot a wedding, I'm always looking for an award shot, even if even if I don't enter it, but I call it in my head, I'm going to shoot an award shot today. This is what I'm going to do. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And like, sometimes I'm like, yep, that didn't work. I'm sorry, guys.
And do you share that with your clients as well? So when you're shooting, you're like, this is what I'm after. Yeah.
Oh, I don't say that, hey, I'm going to shoot an award shot, because then they'll expect it.
Yeah.
But I'm quite honest with my clients. Like, I'm like, oh, I really want to try this. It may not work out and it might look shit, but it might turn out really good. And like, they're pretty up for it. So it's good, like that, you know, and you have to tell them when it's shit, because if you sit there and pretend like it's really good and then they go, oh, can we see that shot that you like, and it's shit, like, I'd rather be honest and say, all right, didn't work out, sorry, you've got to try these things. You're like, you know, more often or not, these kind of shots work out in your favor, and it's something different. But yeah, I think it's really important to enter awards, not just for the award, but just so you can push yourself, and like, even just being at those judging and watching the experiences, you learn so much from other people's images as well. Yeah.
You found like being part of a community has been huge as well. I mean, the whole Gastro thing, like I know up in Cairns here, where we've got to, and that is so true.
Yeah.
If someone gets Gastro, someone's in a car, you know, it has happened, you know, someone has been in a car accident, and there's always someone that's there to kind of fill in. How important has that community been for you?
So important. Like, that goes back to that time that I had Gastro. Like, I didn't know anyone. I couldn't call on anyone. So like, for me, like, having that community of people, like, has been just amazing. Like, for example, 2 years ago, I was pregnant, and I had a wedding, and I was like, yeah, I can shoot this wedding. Like, it's 2 weeks before I give birth, but I could do anything. And because all my other births, I never went over, like, never went under. I was always like on time or over. I was like, I'll be fine, like, whatever. And then I gave birth on the Wednesday, and I was supposed to shoot the wedding on the Saturday. And I was like, oh my God. Like, and I'm one of those people that will not let their clients down, like, ever, because I just feel like I would rather be on my deathbed shooting your wedding, and like, I'd have someone with me, like, just as a backup, but just so they feel like good about me being there. I would definitely be there. But I had a friend who I was able to call on, and she did preps, and I came for ceremony and locations.
You went?
Yeah, so I went for the ceremony and the locations, because I was like, locations is important, because obviously they've seen all those shots. And then like, reception, it's like fine. So I went for like, it was probably like a good 2 hours all up. I was like, you know, coming like, yeah, I wasn't in good form, but I did it. But it was good that I had that backup of my friend being able to shoot.
Did you get an award shot?
No, I shot actually a couple of good shots, but it was like one of those really hard weddings. It was like the middle of winter, and the ceremony was at like 5 p.m. and it was dark by 5:30. So it was a lot of those night shots, and that's why I sort of felt obliged to go, because like those night shots, like I do them a lot, and I'm really confident in doing them, and I have a certain way. So I was like, I need to go just to do those. And it was good. The bride was so understanding. I was like, thank God that she's like this bride.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I got a couple of good shots at that wedding. I
think just that deserves an award in itself. Just the fact that you turned on.
Yeah, I know. But look, it's so good to have that community, just to even talk to, like, even now going through all this, like, I've had weddings where they've cancelled to other dates that I'm not available, and I really want to keep that booking. Like, so I've found like people in the community to shoot the wedding for me, like a subcontractor, and like my clients have been really appreciative of that. So I'll do all the editing and stuff like that, which is so great. Like, I was even able to find someone in Brisbane, like through, you know, my network of people in Sydney. So like, I think it's really important. And like, this is really lonely industry too. Like, we sit behind our computers, pretty much 90% of our job is behind the computer. So like, having these little, like the WPPI, for example, in Vegas, like, who doesn't want an excuse to go to Vegas? But like, having that and going there and like having something to like celebrate and like look forward to is just so important.
Oh, it's amazing.
Have you been to?
Yes, I've done
Yeah.
two. Yes.
Oh,
It's electrifying. It's just a
yeah.
completely,
I
it's a whole
know,
new world. It really is.
and it's just like yeah, and it's just like I just was in shock. Like my sister was always telling me about it. She's like, Ashley, you got to wait, because she's been to like 3 or 4 now. For me, it's just been really hard because it's in the middle of our wedding season, so it's like trying to get that time off. But now I've sort of made sure that every year it's going to be.
If you're going to keep going, that's awesome. Yeah,
you get sucked in, don't you?
You do, and so you formed a community over there as well, or with internationally now, or?
Well, look, I've got the Australian people that are like obviously all go there every year, and then you sort of catch. Well, I've only been once, but I know my sister sort of catches up with the same people. But yeah, I was able to make friends with some international people. You know, people from America, from Italy, from China, so like, and Japan. So there's like, it's good how you can sort of branch out, like, and like make contacts from all over, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
meet new people. Yeah,
I love meeting new people. It's so good.
So cool. Yeah,
yeah.
It's a totally different thing, the WPP, even in the trade area. So I was set up there in the trade area, and in comparison to, and nothing against Aussie photographers, don't get me wrong, but even in the trade area of how an American photographer is immersed, they are in there in that trade area, and they go to every single place that they get all the pamphlets, digest all of the information. It's phenomenal.
And you know what? I said because I actually love the trade shows. Like, I love trade shows, but mainly, I love my trade shows because there was one year where Nikki and I hung out at the ARPP trade show, like doing some work. We were doing some work for the ARPP, like the video behind the scenes. And we were hanging out with all these different people from their stands. And they were getting to know us and recognizing us and stuff like that. And then we started making networks of friends online and Facebook friends. And then fortunately for us, we had one of the Panasonic guys contact us and ask us if we want to do some work for their new camera that they're releasing. And then from that, we were able to do a launch of one of Panasonic's newest cameras and do work for them for a whole year. So like, people don't understand. They're just like walking past the trade show, just like, oh, whatever, trade show. But these people are who you want to make friends with, because at the end of the day, like, these people are going to, you know, give you work, or like you might get an ambassadorship, or you don't know. But like, and like, I find that in Australia, like, especially because we worked on the AIPP like 2 years ago, we worked on the Panasonic stand, and I just noticed so many people walking past and just snobbing, and I just
don't sell me anything. It's like, we don't want to sell you. We want to help you.
These relationships that you need to make, like you know, you can make these relationships, and then you know the person, you can email them, and like, you know, you can be on a face value level with these people. They can help you out. Like, it's just, it gets me. And I noticed that at the WPPI trade show, that everyone was like around like all the stands and like really immersing themselves into those stands. And like, I think it's so important.
It's huge.
Yes, so good.
I want to get to SWPP.
Where's that?
That's in London.
London,
in England,
yes.
Yeah.
I know. There's so many, and like, you get like stuck in your little Australian circle, and you don't realize how big like it is internationally. And like, I'm so glad that I've sort of started to step out of that and like go like, yes, this is so much like the trade show at WPPI. And my sister said to me, that's nothing. Like, that was quiet that year, but like, last year it's huge. Like, she's like, they're just so big, like
huge.
I love it.
Amazing. So you work it's candid, edgy, and dramatic. Are you candid, edgy, and dramatic? Sorry, I was I like
like, I like to like, the reason why I say candid, like, every client comes in and they're like, I really want that natural candid style, and I'm like, yeah, okay, but do you really want that? Because like, if you do, your photos are going to look like, you know,
Beyonce.
Like, so I add the candid in because, like, honestly, I want to be as natural as I can with my work, and like 90% of my work is candid, natural, sort of style work, but I still want to refine that candidness to like a little bit edgy. So like, yeah, I do like mix it up. Like I have a whole, like I obviously do like my walking shots and laughing shots and stuff like that, but I love my really posed, I call them the Vanity Fair shots, like, you know, the really like boss looking photographs. And like I feel like they're really in at the moment as well. A lot of people really want those shots. Like it's just funny to look back at like your whole bridal parties and they're like all serious and stuff. But yeah, and like I love like, you know, a handful of dramatic shots into the final gallery as well. Yeah. I think it's really important to be a little bit like versatile with your work as well, not sort of stick to one style. Like it's good to mix it up a bit.
So with the COVID shutdown, you got ankle tapped by COVID, as we all did, but you guys a little bit more, and I'm very sorry. Yeah. I just wanted to say.
Thank you.
You've done this amazing transformation to taking photos of your kids in isolation, which I've just watched and just, it's blown my mind. It's like you're freezing this moment in time that I reckon will be in I don't know, National Geographic in 50, 100 years time of freezing this moment.
Yeah.
They're incredible. I don't really even know what to. I don't actually know what to ask you, other just say that they're incredible. And
thank you.
How are the kids going with that?
Well, I don't know, they're struggling. Like I've started to notice this time they're really struggling. Like I think they're really missing like children interaction. Like I mean, I've got 4 kids here, so they really do get a lot of interaction with kids because there's 4 of them. But like I think they're starting to miss like their friends and going to school and like just being social with young kids. Like they're stuck in the house all day. Here we are not allowed to leave the house. We're only allowed to leave for 1 hour of exercise per day. So like that's a walk or a bike ride, and it's only 5 kilometers, which is fine. But there's only so much of that you can do with your children before they're like, I don't want to go for a walk today. Like, or there's only so many movies you can put on, or they're all into the like iPads and playing these games. And like I don't like to stop them because I know that they're talking to all their little school friends and stuff online, and I know that that's their social interaction, but I still feel guilty seeing them on the iPad so much. I'm like, oh, get off the iPad. But like it's so hard not to know what the right thing to do with them is. I have been getting them up doing these photos though. I'm like, get up, we're doing a photo, like, or like I'll see them do something and then I'll replicate it but make it more dramatic. Yeah. So like I'll be like thinking of these little stories of how kids are acting during like ISO. But I wish I could do more of them. Like I want to do more, but I go up and down with my creativity. I'm like, one week I'm like, yep, I'm going to do it. And then next week I'm like, something bad happens on the news, you see something and you just feel like really deflated. So I was trying to do like one a day or one a week or whatever, but I've sort of like, especially when homeschool came back, I'm just like, ugh. But I love doing them because I like pushing my creativity. Like I really don't want to not shoot for a year and then come back to weddings and be like, what am I doing? Like I still want to stay like creative and innovating in other ways. But yeah, just trying to like, you know, practice some things and learn a little bit more about different lighting. But yeah, it's been hard. Yeah. I feel sorry for the kids of all people. Like we forget about them. Like we prioritize our problems over theirs. And I'm like, oh, go away. Like I'm just working out this or whatever. But it's taken me to like this week to realize, hey, hang on, these little guys are actually probably suffering more than any of us. And we sort of got to try and find ways to make them feel like happy and, I don't know, safe and not worried, because they shouldn't be taking on any of this concern, should they, like as little kids. It's really sad, but yeah.
I had not thought of it. I guess we haven't had it to that degree. I hadn't, I can understand how that would definitely affect them.
I think like 2 weeks ago I took them to the beach, which we were allowed to do back then, and they had the best day of it. Like they were just running around and like just enjoying like just being little kids, and it was so good to see. And then we have our new lockdown and it's like, oh, now they can't do that, but it'll be all right. We'll get there.
Yeah. Any silver linings yet? Like you said, if there was anything that you could say so far of COVID, is there any silver linings? You're like, you know what, it was good because of this. Was there one thing? Was it slowing down? Was there anything?
Do you know what? If anything, it's taught me like to not take anything for granted. Like, you know, last year we were doing a lot of traveling, like just for interstate for works and workshops and whatever, and like international travel. And I was like, I'm sick of this. Like, I'm never home. Like, you know, and so like now I'm like, I want to be traveling again, and I'm just like, I don't want to take anything for granted when we go back to like shooting again. Even like I said to my sister, I'm like, when I do my first wedding, because like before COVID, I was really strict with my wedding timing. If you book 10 hours, I'm leaving on 10 hours on the dot and I'm not staying for any longer. Now I'm like, I'll stay the whole night. Like, I don't care. I'll stay for the reception. So I'm sort of like, I can't, like, I'm not going to be, like, I'm not going to take my job for granted. Like, we have such a good job, like, and we just, and like, for us as well, like, for me, especially, like, I feel like photography is my creative outlet. And like, it's not just a job, it's in me, like, it's who I am, it's like what I love, and not being able to do it is actually like depressing. So that's why I continuously try and do these like ISO shoots. Like, I've been doing a lot of portrait shoots lately. I can't do them anymore because since the second lockdown, but just trying to keep getting work in other ways and not sitting there going, oh, well, I got no weddings, I'm just going to sook about it. Like, I have done a lot of stuff. I have done a lot. Believe me, I've done so much sooking online. You probably see my Facebook posts.
You sook it up, girlfriend. You know, you couldn't out-sook what you've been putting out there as far as those family portraits, those balls falling down the stairs. So it was a composite.
Yeah. So those so I haven't really done many composites before, and I was like, I really want to try these, like, to do composites, because like I've got this flash and I'm sort of like using it on each child on the direction and then merging them in. So I'm in my mind, I'm trying to come up with different stories in my house, like what I can do. So like things, so something might happen, like where my daughter might throw the balls down the thing, and I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, actually that would make a good photo. I've got to think of that later and redo it. So yeah, and then just like a homeschool one, I did one for homeschool. I was like, look at them all, like, and the baby was standing on the table and I was yelling at her. I'm like, get off the table, like, we're trying to do homeschool. Then I'm like, hang on a minute, this is real life. I'm going to quickly grab my flash and then I'll make her redo it, obviously, because she's already had that little moment. So like anything that I'm sort of getting inspired by, I'm just kind of like remembering in my head, like, tomorrow I'm going to do that, but like more dramatic.
Yeah, they're amazing. And that, you're right. That being a creative is that you need to keep that juice flowing, or it gets blocked and then that comes out in other ways.
I know. Yeah. It's funny. Like, you know, it's funny how it works like that. You have to stay on top of it. Like, otherwise I don't even know how to shoot a wedding now. Like, what's going to happen when I go back? Like,
how do you, I've asked everyone this in the last few months. How do you see weddings changing going forward? Are you there? Sorry.
Yeah, I am. I don't know. I accidentally bumped you out. Yep. Sorry. Can you hear me? Yeah.
I'll say it again. So how do you see, like, looking into the future, how do you see weddings changing in your opinion, how do you see weddings change?
I think they're going to be, so when we first had COVID problems, I wasn't so bad. I was like, oh, this is really sad. But like, when August comes around, we are going to have these amazing parties, and we're going to party like we've never partied before, because we're all going to have this 2 months, 3 months off of, you know, not doing anything. And so that was my mindset then. It was like, yeah, I can't wait. So when these weddings come around, these are going to be so much fun. But now I'm sort of like at a point where I'm like, if these weddings come along, they're going to have restrictions, like no dancing, no embracing with each other. So I see a little bit of sadness for the wedding industry, to be honest, like especially in Victoria. I feel like those who were planning their weddings from March onwards that had to postpone, I feel sorry for them people the most, because they're like literally in limbo right now. They want to get married, but they can't. But when they finally can, they're going to have their wedding is going to look so different to what they would have imagined. They're probably not going to have as many numbers as they were going to. They're probably not going to be able to dance. There's going to be social distancing. So I think that's going to be a challenge in itself, whether or not those couples will want to celebrate in that way, or whether they'll want to postpone again until they can. It's going to be a tough one. Unfortunately for us, we're the forgotten industry. Like we are like the last on the list to be thought about. So, you know, I was saying this to someone yesterday. I'm like, someone was complaining about the construction industry here being closed down, and I was like, do you know what? It's 6 weeks. Us tourism and events people have been out of work since March. Like, we've been doing our bit for this country. Like, it's now your turn to do your bit and just get it over and done with, so we can all go back. And unfortunately for us, we're the last industry, construction and that, they're all the first on the priority list. So we're like down here. So I don't know. I've lost so much trust. I don't see us having weddings for the rest of the year. Well, I don't have any weddings left for the rest of the year. I don't see them allowing weddings. If not, they're going to be like 20 people. And I don't even know if we're going to be allowed to do them next year. Like, I don't know. So I don't know where they're going to be. It's really hard, but I hope mid next year we get to have those parties like I was imagining, because like the vision in my head was like, just imagine all these people, like they haven't been out in so long, like they're gonna go nuts. So drunk on the dance floor, I'm gonna get the best party shots. But yeah, so
so I saw that you gave your mother a big print. Was that right, for Mother's Day, or was it? Yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, so you probably can see that print behind. So I did I was doing all these little portrait shoots, and so I printed her a 16 by 20 in like similar to that, and gave it to her for Mother's Day. So I was just at home, and I'm just like, let's do a shot, kid. Literally 2 minutes later, that's what I come up with, and I was like, I'm going to Photoshop myself, because I didn't even practicing. And then I like decided I wanted to print it, and I printed it on like some canvas, sort of a canvas with that vintage frame on the edge, because I wanted that like vintage look, and gave it to her, and she was just so wrapped.
Do you give her prints often?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I tend to like I obviously don't have many prints. I have a fair bit of prints on the wall, but I don't like to have too many. Like, I like to have statement pieces on the wall. But I love printing my personal work, because I love to see what I can improve. Like, there's no better feeling than seeing it print and knowing what you need to improve on in post. So I print a lot of my personal work, and I don't like leaving it just sitting there. So I tend to give my mum the prints, you know. She loves it. Like, she's like, oh, thanks. So, and last week I printed, like, I did a photo shoot for my sister, and like, I know that they wouldn't go out and print it, because they're just, you know, that's just how society is these days. Yeah. And so I was like, I'm going to print her a print box, and printed her like 15 or so sort of fine art prints, and gave them to her. And she was like, oh my God, these photos are like better than my wedding day. So I was like, oh, thanks.
Is that because they're printed?
Yeah.
Did she print her wedding photos?
Nope, she got a USB, and that's it. So she was like, I was like, there's such a difference in print versus USB. Like the USB does nothing. And look, who's going to pull out their USB, put it in their computer, and like sit there for hours just like tapping the
Everyone come around for a USB night. It's like the slide night back in the day.
I know.
Uncle would go through the slides.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's nothing better than a print, to be honest. I'm a big advocate for printing.
And do you print a lot of your clients' work, your wedding clients?
Yeah. So I'd say 80% of my clients go for an album, and that's great because, you know, I want them to get the album. The other 20% sort of are in that mindset where they're like, oh no, we're going to do our own thing with it. But I always make sure that my clients walk away with some form of print. So if those 20% don't get an album, I give them a print box or something, like with some prints, just so like they can actually see what a good print looks like, rather than taking the USB, Kmart, and doing all that kind of stuff with it. Like, you cannot compare those to like the prints that we provide for them. So, because I was sick of people messaging me going, oh, I printed my my images and they're like just a little bit like pixelated or something, you know?
Oh, the old pixelation.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, so I was sick of that. So now I said, like, send them that. Generally opens up the door too for them to want more prints, because they're like, oh, those prints are really good. I need to get some for my mum, or I want to get a bigger one for the wall. So yeah, it's it's good.
It's a segue for the conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Start something. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. So no more weddings for the rest of the year?
Well, I was supposed to have one today.
Oh, wow. Are people still kind of booking in and making inquiry for next year?
They've slowed down dramatically, especially like they were, I had a couple of bookings and inquiries between the lockdowns, because it was like open again and you can go see venues, you know, people were getting engaged. Like, it's hard. People don't want to get engaged at home. So like most people are sort of putting off their engagements until this is over, and then they can do something fancy for their partners. Jewelers aren't open. Venues aren't open to go and like view a venue. So like things are really quiet all around. I'm not so worried about that though, because I look at my calendar for next year. I've got like 60 weddings because I've had to put all those into next year. So I'm like full calendar next year. To be honest, I probably don't even want to take on many next year. But I'm sure once everything opens up again, and we're like, even like content for your Instagram, you don't have any content. Like, you have old photos, but like, you know, it's hard going back through old hard drives and finding something and editing something up. So like, you've got to put content out there for people to see to make bookings. And I've been sort of unmotivated to do that as well, which sucks. I need to get back into more content on the Instagram, but I'm sort of not in that mindset of booking weddings at the moment, because I'm just like, and every new booking is like a problem right now.
Yeah, you're like, oh, don't do it, don't say it. We want you, no.
So I'm sort of like, oh, whatever. But hopefully, like, by the end of this sort of lockdown, 8 weeks, we can start to open up again, and then maybe that will put like more people want to book like again. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, excellent. Yeah. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been awesome to catch up with you. Wishing you all the best down there for the next 6 weeks with the kids at home as well.
I know.
And when they open up the borders again, you pack them up and bring them up to Maggie and come and defrost.
I am so doing that. Like, I'm like, next time I'm not even going to muck around. But knowing my luck, I'll go up there and it'll start like getting Queensland, and Victoria will be like flourishing, and I'll be like, what did I do? I hope not. I hope that doesn't happen, because I've got like my great grandma is in an aged care in Townsville, and like, you know, my family are all up that way. So I'm like, I don't want them like to get any coronavirus. Like, so just whatever. Like, just don't.
Were you born up this way?
No. So we were all born here, and my auntie decided to move over there and was like in Magnetic Island with her husband, and she was like, really love Magnetic Island, you should come here. So then my grandma went, like, and her grandma, like my grandma and my grandfather went there, and then like my grandma's mum lived in Phillip Island, and so my grandma was like, I can't look after you in Phillip Island and live in Magnetic Island, you have to move to Townsville. So she moved to Townsville. So it's worked out good for them, because like, I can't imagine, I'd be pretty much on edge if they were down here. If they're out like old elderly, and so they're probably they're safe over there.
nice and safe up here.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's good chatting.
Yeah, it was lovely to chat with you as well.
I had to chat to someone new.
You. We'll have to do it again. Thank you for coming on Yarning with Jannah.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
No worries at all.
Thank you.
Bye.